Babylonian cosmology and its place among the other creation myths. Like the cosmological efforts of the most primitive or barbarian peoples, it does not partake of the character of a creation myth, but rather as an account of an evolution from chaos and the establishment of the physical laws. The primitive mind cannot grasp the idea of the creation of something out of nothing. The Babylonians and Akkadians did not differ in this respect from other races in the same stage of development. In whatever direction we look when examining the cosmologies of the barbarian or semi-civilized peoples, we find a total inability to get behind and beyond the idea that the matter of creation lay already in the hands of a creative agency, and that in order to shape a world, it had but to draw the material therefor from the teeming deep, or the slain body of a hostile monster. But man as well must be framed from dust, mud, clay, or the blood of the creative God himself. Yet Merodach was able to bring a garment out of nothingness, and return it by merely speaking a word. Why then did not the theology which admitted the possibility of such a phenomenon carry out its own conception to a logical conclusion, and own the likelihood of God's ability to create an entire universe in the same manner? Perhaps this step was too bold for an individual to take in the face of an entire theological college. And in any case, what would seem as a perfectly feasible act of magic to the theologians of Babylon, when applied to a garment, it might not serve for application to the making of the earth and all that is therein. The cosmology of Babylon is therefore on par with those of Scandinavia, China, and many North American Indian tribes. Nor does it reach so high with those of an imaginative level, those of ancient Egypt, India, or the Maya of Central America, in some of which the vocal command of a god is sufficient to bring about the creation of the earth and the waters surrounding it. The making of the sun, the moon, and the heavenly bodies is, as will be more fully shown later, is of great importance to Babylonian myth. The stars appear to have been attached to the firmament of heaven as to a cloth. Across this, the sun passed daily, his function being to inspect the movements of the other heavenly bodies. The moon likewise had her fixed course, and certain stars were also supposed to move across the picture of the night with greater or less regularity. The heavens were guarded at either end by a great gateway, and through one of these the sun passed after rising from the ocean. Whilst in setting, he quitted the heavens by the opposite portal. The world was imagined as a great hollow structure resting on the deep. Indeed, it would seem to have been regarded as an island floating on the abyss of waters. This conception of the world of earth was by no means peculiar to the Babylonians, but was shared by them with many of the nations of antiquity. As emanating from the blood of Merodach himself, man was looked upon as directly of heavenly origin. An older tradition existed to the effect that Merodach had been assisted in the creation of mankind by the goddess Aruru, who figures in the Gilgamesh epic as the creatress of Eabani out of a piece of clay. We also find an ancient belief that humanity owed its origin to the god Ea. But when Merodach displaced this god politically, he would of course take over his entire record and creative deeds, as well as his powers and sovereignties. At Nippur, Bel was looked up to as the originator of man, but these beliefs were probably obtained in remoter times and would finally be quenched by the advance to full and unquestioned power of the great god Merodach. In connection to the Jonah Legend, a hidden allusion to the circumstances of Babylonian cosmology, Jonah as we remember, was summoned to Nineveh to prophesy against it, but proceeded instead to Joppa, which is actually the scene of the later myth of Perseus and Andromeda. The ship in which Jonah set sail was storm-tossed, and he himself advised the sailors to cast him overboard. They did so, and a great fish swallowed him. The fish, it has been claimed, is merely a marine form of Tiawath, the dragon of chaos, and the 3 days and nights which Jonah remains inside it are the winter months. This does not seem very clear. Hercules, in a like manner, descended into the belly of a fish, and emerged again after 3 days, according to the Phoenicians. The dots are connecting. The name of Jonah may be compared with that of Owans or Ea. Was there a local sea monster at Joppa, a variant of Tiawath, and is it the same in the Jonah myth as that in the tale of Perseus? A tawny fountain at Joppa was thought to derive its colour from the blood of the sea, a monster slain by Perseus, says Pausanias. Was then the monster who lay in wait of Joppa Tiawath, the goddess of darkness? And was Jonah none other than Ea or Owans, her mortal foe, the god of light, whom she would mythologically swallow during the severe months of winter? It would appear that Lewis Spence and I share a similar mind. Owans is the root name for John, the first of the 7 Apkallu. Enoch aligns with the first and the last, as the last ascended to heaven, and the first is a heavenly scribe. Alpha Omega, the 7 aspects. I remind you that all the figures falling from the unknown god, Abzu, were preserved in astrology, alchemy, science, arts and crafts, and the area of poetry must be constantly reinvented. That is exactly what we are seeing here. This would be the secret source. What is the common ground between them all? Or what do they all need to function? Language, numbers, and symbolism, all deriving from the first piece of work. The planets, arts, etc. become containers for the 7. Reduced, recycled, reused. Reduced because the truth was known. Recycled to reinstall. And reuse, meaning rinse and repeat. It only appears devilishly complex, but it is actually elegantly simple. In relation to the Thoth X Tower, which is in production as I speak, the Tower Tarot card represents chaos and destruction. It is the major arcana card of sudden upheaval. One positive aspect of the Tower is that the destruction it brings is usually directed at something that was built on false beliefs and foundations, or unrealistic goals or dreams. The new Babel, the gatekeeper, the tower. Babel means gate of God. The Thoth X Tower is the new Tower of Babel, and it would appear that they want the floodgates to open. milk for babes, meat for men. As above, so below. This is the same forwards as back. Please hit that notification bell to ensure that you're notified of each upload. Share, like, comment and subscribe to support the channel for more ancient mystery.